Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. 74 years ago today, the Warsaw Uprising began. Tens of thousands of Home Army soldiers and other underground formations took a stand against the unfair fight with the German forces. The heroic battle for Warsaw lasted for 63 days and became a renowned point in Polish history.
The Warsaw Uprising began at exactly 5 p.m, now known as the W hour. Each year, Poland's capital city stops to pay tribute to the brave people who were part of the heroic surge 74 years ago. Official commemorations of the Warsaw Uprising's 74th anniversary began at 9 a.m. in the Ochota district. They were held in the same place where the commanding general, Antoni Monter-Chruściel, gave the order to begin the uprising. Liaisons of the Home Army ran out of this house carrying the message that the following day, at 5 p.m, the battle for a free Warsaw would commence. We would like to thank the commanders of the Warsaw Uprising for this decision, as they are often forgotten about. We want to thank them for giving the order to start the uprising, because it showed that Poles want to stand on the side of righteousness and good. In the early afternoon, a bugle was played in front of the General Stefan Grot-Rowecki monument. General Rowecki was the man who created the Home Army. General Rowecki was murdered days after the uprising began, on the personal order of SS leader Heinrich Himmler.
Uczcijmy pamięć generała I pamięć jego żołnierzy.
During the commemorations held in the Museum of the Warsaw Uprising, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki underlined just how important the memory of our heroes is.
Ojczyzna to ziemia I groby.
A nation losing its memory is like a nation losing its life. We would not be here if it was not for those 18,000 people.
Ale też skąd przychodzimy.
The Prime Minister, along with President Andrzej Duda, paid their tributes to General Monter, the leader of the uprising, in the military section of the Powolski cemetery. The Warsaw Uprising was the single greatest resistance surge in Nazi-occupied Europe. In these 63 days of battle, 18,000 Home Army soldiers died, with 150,000 civilians also losing their lives.
The youngest combatants of World War II are now in their 90s. Despite the many years that have passed, Warsaw Uprising remains one of the hottest topics for Poles. While critics point to unprecedented results and blame commanders and politicians, others focus on the patriotism of Poles and the simple treason of Polish allies who left their country's capital to die at the hands of two totalitarian regimes.
The Warsaw Uprising was a colossal tragedy even by World War II standards. The metropolis of over 1 million inhabitants was wiped off the face of the earth. German troops murdered over 60,000 unarmed civilians and demolished residential blocks as well as historical buildings. 100-year-old documents and art went up in flames. Yet, despite years of fighting Nazi Germany, the fate of Poland was decided by Great Britain and the United States, who offered half of Poland's pre-war territory to Stalin and were okay with the rest being under Soviet control. Since 1944, one generation of Poles after another has disputed the reasons for and consequences of the uprising. Some blame the commanders who failed to prepare a strong resistance and did not expect the Soviets to stop and watch the German Wehrmacht destroy the city as Western allies turned a blind eye to Poland's tragedy. Others say the fight would have occurred anyway. At one point, the mighty Wehrmacht was beaten and retreated in a panic, although later brought in more units. Polish fighters wanted revenge on the Germans for 5 years of brutal occupation, and Soviet propaganda added fuel to the fire by calling on the people of Warsaw to rise up and help the Red Army. The authorities of Communist Poland considered any memory of the uprising to be dangerous, fearing it could delegitimize the Soviet pupils' power over the enslaved nation. It turned out they were right. Despite political divisions, Poles today remember the uprising by talking to the remaining living heroes, visiting cemeteries and laying flowers on monuments. But most of all, they simply take pride in the great courage shown by their forefathers.
Every year on the 1st of August at 5 p.m, the whole of Poland stands still for 1 minute as they pay tribute to the fallen insurgents. Those who managed to survive the uprising were only teenagers at the time. Some of them fought using whatever makeshift weapons they could lay their hands on. They are known as the Warsaw Children. Today, 74 years on, they recall their experiences.
At the time of the uprising, Władysław was in a sanitary unit. During the last attack on the school at Kazimierzowska Street, he lost his shoes, so he helped others barefoot.
I sat down in front of the paramedics unit. My friend asked what happened to me. I replied that I hurt my feet because there were lots of pieces of glass everywhere. Later, I went to look for my shoes.
Mrs. Basia was a liaison and a nurse. In the first hour of the uprising, the commander of her platoon was killed. Other people died later. My friend had red shoes. In the second half of the uprising, I saw that someone was lying dead with the red shoes on. I was terrified and I thought that my friend was dead, but someone else had those shoes. At the outbreak of the uprising, Mr. Jan was 12 years old. He was nicknamed Shark because he ran very fast.
There were no telephones, no radio, nothing, only a messenger. I spent the whole 2 months running around all the time. I had to run fast because if I fell over, I would lose my life. I ran from one place to another. You had to mobilize yourself. When I heard someone had finished shooting, I knew I could run.
Barbara wanted to fight. At her mother's request, she did not go. It was a miracle that she avoided death. She later became a nurse. Mom said, "Baby, if you go, I will kill myself." My dad, my brothers, and I wanted to go, but we were worried about Mom. In the end, I became a medic.
For us, the memory of this is the most important. Everything in the world passes slowly. The memory of happiness and pain. Everything passes. That is what destiny wants. Only one thing stays the same, and that is memory.
Jedno tylko zostaje, wspomnienie.
Thank you for joining us here at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather, and then join me after that for Poland Daily Business.